There's a specific kind of silence that happens at 3 in the morning. It's the sound of realizing that the life you've built, the job, the routine, the way you wake up and check your phone, doesn't fit anymore. It's like wearing a pair of shoes you outgrew years ago. You know they're pinching your toes. You know they're making your back ache. But they're your shoes. You know exactly where the leather is worn. You know how to walk in them so the pain is manageable. We often stay in the pain we know because the alternative is a path we haven't mapped yet. We wait, we linger. We hope that if we just stay still enough, the floor won't drop out from under us. But what if the floor is already gone and we're just refusing to look down? Elon Musk is a man associated with the future, with rockets and high-speed shifts in how we live. But he once said something that feels less like a corporate strategy and more like a quiet, uncomfortable truth about the human condition. He said, "Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster." Now, before we move forward, I want to ask you to do something difficult. Don't agree with that. Don't see it as a motivational call to action. In fact, let's be skeptical of it. It's a heavy statement. It frames change not as a choice, but as a survival tactic. It suggests that if we aren't moving, we're dying. I wonder, is that always true? Or is that just how it feels when you're standing at the edge of something? Let's look at the words he chose. Embrace. To embrace something is to pull it close, to hold it with affection, or at least with total acceptance. But how do you embrace a fire that's burning down your house? How do you embrace the loss of a career path you spent a decade building? And then there's that word disaster. Who defines the disaster? Sometimes what feels like a disaster to the world is actually just a quiet ending for us. Or perhaps more frighteningly, what we call stability is actually the disaster in slow motion. Does this quote assume that we always know when the disaster is coming? Most of us don't live in a world of burning buildings. We live in a world of slow erosion, a relationship that goes cold over 5 years, a dream that gets buried under sensible decisions. Is the disaster always the explosion? Or is the disaster the act of staying exactly where you are until you've disappeared? And I wonder, who does this philosophy benefit? Is it easier to tell people to embrace change when you're the one driving the change? Or is it a universal burden we all carry? I think about this often when I look at how we live now. We're told to pivot constantly. In our jobs, we're told that if we aren't learning a new skill every 6 months, we're becoming obsolete. On social media, we see lives that are a constant stream of new chapters and reinventions. It creates this low-level anxiety, doesn't it? This feeling that if you sit still for a moment, if you just want to enjoy the garden you've finally planted, you're somehow inviting a catastrophe. I see it in my friends who are burnt out but terrified to quit because the disaster of a gap in their resume feels more real than the disaster of their crumbling mental health. I see it in families who hold on to traditions that no longer bring joy simply because the change of admitting things have drifted apart feels like a betrayal. We're all standing in front of different versions of a disaster. For some, it's the fear of being alone. For others, it's the fear of being seen. We stay in the uncomfortable now because the next requires us to be someone we haven't met yet. But what if the now becomes uninhabitable? But here is where I struggle with Musk's idea. There is a profound beauty in not changing. There is a quiet strength in endurance, in holding the line, in preservation. If we embrace change every time a disaster looms, do we ever build anything that lasts? If a storm hits an ancient oak tree, the tree doesn't embrace change by becoming a willow.
It digs its roots deeper. It trusts its core. Maybe disaster is sometimes just the price of being something substantial. What if the pressure to constantly change is actually a way of avoiding the hard work of fixing what we already have? It's easier to change your city, your partner, or your job than it is to change the way you relate to yourself. And let's be honest, embracing change sounds remarkably like a justification for chaos. It's a phrase used by corporations when they lay off thousands. It's a phrase used by people when they walk away from responsibilities. If we are always anticipating the disaster, are we actually here? Or are we just perpetually packing our bags for a destination that doesn't exist? Take a breath. Think about the thing in your life right now that feels heavy, the thing you've been protecting even though it's hurting you. Maybe it's a belief you have about yourself. Maybe it's a situation you've convinced yourself is fine. What would happen if you stopped holding it up? Don't answer that with a plan. Don't think about solutions. Just feel the weight of it. Does the thought of letting it go feel like a disaster? Or does it feel like the disaster has already happened and you're just waiting for the dust to settle so you can finally see the sky? I don't know if Elon Musk is right. I don't know if change is a requirement for survival, or if it's just a narrative we tell ourselves to make the unknown less terrifying. I think maybe some disasters are necessary. Maybe some things need to fall apart so that something else can breathe. But I also wonder, what are we losing in the rush to avoid the wreckage? If you had to choose between a familiar pain and a strange, unknown peace, which one would actually be the disaster? I don't have the answer. I'm not sure anyone does. But I think it's worth asking, are you embracing change because you're moving towards something? Or are you just running because you're afraid of what happens if you stay?